You're good. Go ahead, Phil.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May the 8th, 2024 meeting of the Zoning Hearing Board for the City of Reading. I'm going to introduce the members of the board first. Jared?
Jared Bartz, member of the board.
Tom?
Tom Fox, member of the board.
Charlie?
Charlie Jones, alternate member of the board.
I'm Phil Rubina, member of the board. Bill?
Bill Hurst, member of the board.
Jeff?
Jeff Catone, member of the board.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Price?
Hi, Steve Price, solicitor to the board.
Emily?
Emily Diaz-Melendez with the zoning office.
Okay, thank you. All right, before we get started, there is Appeal 2403 0005, which was 1116 Perry Street. They have asked for a continuance. They're waiting for some information from their contractor. So I'm going to make that motion that we give them a continuance until June, but that will be the only continuance they get. Do I have a second for that motion?
Will second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we have some decisions to render from last month's meeting. Appeal 2024-01, 532 Elm Street. Mr. Price.
Is there a motion to deny the relief requested?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Are there questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor to deny, say aye.
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 Okay, the next matter before us was Appeal 2402 0002 521 Elm Street. Mr. Price.
Is there a motion to deny the relief requested?
I'll make
So
the
moved.
motion.
Okay,
Okay,
we have a motion. We have a second. Are there questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor to deny, say aye.
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 Okay, the next appeal was 2403 0006 109 Upland Avenue. Mr. Price.
Is there a motion to approve the relief requested subject to the conditions set forth in the written decision?
So moved.
It's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the next appeal was 2403 0007 317 Franklin Street. Mr. Price.
Is there a motion to approve the relief requested subject to all the conditions set forth in the written decision and specifically with respect to parking?
I'll make the
So
So
motion.
moved.
Motion.
All right, there's a motion, there's a second. Are there questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll get into our hearings for this evening. Appeal 2403 0008 1412 Schuylkill Avenue. Solani A. Polano Dela Cruz and Wilfredo Jimenez are seeking a variance for the height of a wall in a front setback and a maximum fence and wall height allowed. The subject property is located in the R3 residential zoning district. The owner of record is Solane A. Polano Dela Cruz.
Do you need an interpreter for this one, Bill, or not?
Okay, let's swear in our interpreter.
I don't know if they do.
You want to swear in our interpreter, please?
Nice.
Sure. Can you raise your right hand, please?
My hand is raised.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the interpretation you will give in this hearing will be from English to Spanish?
I do. Ken
Correct.
Olivo, certified court interpreter. I've been so certified since 2009. I'm going to interpret what you said now, Bill. Esta es la apelación 2403-0008 para el 1412 de la calle Schuylkill Avenue. A Solani A. Paulino de la Cruz y Wilfredo Jiménez son los que están pidiendo una varianza para la altura de la pared enfrente del patio frontal. Y también están pidiendo una varianza para la altura máxima de la verja y la pared que se permita. Están sujetos, el sujeto de la propiedad ubicada en la zona residencial del distrito R3 y los dueños o propietarios en las actas es Solani A. Paulino de la Cruz.
Okay, thank you. Would you swear in our zoning officer, please? You're muted, Ashley.
Vamos a
Sorry.
juramentar a la oficial de la zonificación ahora.
Ok.
Emily, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Emily, jura decir la verdad, toda la verdad, nada más que la verdad con la ayuda de Dios. Lo hago.
Okay, Mr. Price?
Yes, let me put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay,
Vamos a poner algunas pruebas materiales en las actas. El primero es el aviso, el segundo es la publicación, el tercero es la muestra de la publicación, el cuarto es la aplicación en todos sus anejos y el quinto es las ordenanzas de zonificación.
okay, thank you. Is the applicant represented by an attorney?
¿El solicitante o aplicante está representado por algún abogado?
No.
Okay, all
He
right.
has not been sworn in, Bill.
You want me to walk them through some questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, why don't you do it that way?
Is this Mr. Polino or who am I speaking to?
¿Usted es el señor Paulino o con quién estoy hablando?
Wilfredo Jiménez.
Okay, we need to swear him in.
Wilfredo Jiménez. Vamos a juramentarlo. Levante la mano derecha.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Levante su mano derecha, por favor. ¿Usted jura decir la verdad, toda la verdad, y nada más que la verdad, su pena de Dios?
Lo juro.
I swear.
Mr. Jimenez, my name's Steve Price. I'm the solicitor for the zoning hearing board. And I'm looking at some pictures of a empty parking lot that looks like it's asphalted. And then there's a cinder block wall and then a vinyl fence. Would that be an accurate description of the garage that is next to you and the structure that you built to protect your home?
Ok, señor Jiménez. Yo me llamo Steve Price, yo soy el procurador del Comité de Zonificación para la audiencia. Estoy viendo unas fotos aquí como de un estacionamiento vacío con asfalto y la pared de la verja y la verja de vinil que está ahí en el garaje. Y esto es esta foto muestra también algo que usted ahí construyó para protección de su casa.
No es un garaje, es un dealer, la cual cuando se estaba haciendo la fensa estaba vacío, pero siempre está lleno de vehículos, pero esa fue la fensa para proteger mi propiedad y mi familia.
It's not a garage per se, it's a dealership. And that was when the fence was being built to protect that and my family.
Was the cinder block wall there when he purchased the home?
La pared de cemento estaba ahí cuando, de bloques, estaba ahí cuando usted compró la casa.
No, señor.
No, sir.
So he put the cinder block in and the vinyl?
Entonces usted fue el que puso ahí los bloques de cemento y el vinil.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when did he do that?
¿Cuándo hizo eso?
Hace como 6 meses, me parece, el año pasado. No tengo exactamente el día, pero fue el año pasado.
It was about 6 months ago, last year. I don't have the exact date, but it was last year.
Have you had any complaints from your residential neighbors or from the automobile dealership?
¿Y ha tenido usted alguna querella de los vecinos residenciales de ahí o del concesionario de vehículos?
No, señor, ninguna queja.
No, sir, no complaints.
And it has prevented people from trespassing onto your property and throwing trash and whatnot onto your property?
Y ha evitado que personas traspasen a su propiedad y tiren basura y cosas así.
Sí, señor, quiero agregarle eso, que mi esposa y yo trabajamos y nos levantamos a las 4 de la mañana y hemos cachado personas anteriormente tratándose de pasar a mi patio para robar, y eso es una de las opciones que yo tuve para impedir también que se pasen a mi propiedad, porque esta es una zona no muy buena.
Okay, yes, sir. And I want to also add that myself and my wife and myself, we wake up at 4 in the morning, and we've caught people trying to get into the property to steal, and that's the option that I had to avoid that. And it's not this is not a good area.
And I'm looking at another picture, and I believe it's part of the application, which shows the area prior to the cinder block and vinyl fence being put up. And it looks like the vehicles were almost right up or over your property line. Is that correct?
Y estoy viendo una foto aquí que parece que era desde antes que usted había puesto esa
Ujú.
pared, y aparentemente los vehículos estaban entrando ahí casi en su propiedad o hasta entrando en su propiedad. ¿Eso es correcto?
Sí, eso es correcto. El problema es que el dealer está a una altura más alta que mi terreno, la cual los empleados no tienen precaución. Incluso ya yo le he arreglado 3 veces antes de poner eso. Incluso hasta un vehículo casi se introduce y golpea a mi hijo en esa ocasión
Un
porque está
momento,
muy...
señor. Un momento, señor, por favor.
Perdón.
Mhm. Yes, the thing is that that property is higher than, at a higher level, the terrain than my home, and I had to repair it several times. In fact, one time a vehicle almost got in and hurt my son. ¿Qué más, señor?
Y por eso casi lo golpea, y por eso fue que se puso la pared para que no pudieran golpear la fensa. Si él ve en la foto,
Okay,
toda la
un momento,
madera.
un
Sí,
momento.
perdón.
And that's why the fence was built. I mean, the wall was built so it wouldn't damage the fence. And in fact, if you see in the picture, que ven las fotos, ¿qué?
Toda la madera anterior que estaba siempre está doblada porque no tienen cauciones, y hay camiones grandes que también la empujan, y no
Mhm.
quisiera que pasara algo
Mhm.
más grave.
And if you notice in the picture, the wooden fence, there was, even trucks that would push against it, and it would always be inclined or bent. So in order to, as a precaution, I didn't want that to continue happening.
I have no other questions for the applicant.
Okay, I have a question.
No tengo una
Ask-
pregunta para el aplicante. Yo tengo una pregunta.
Ask him if he has ever called code services or property maintenance and inspection concerning the problems that he's had with this auto lot.
Señor, ¿usted alguna vez ha tratado de contactarse con el departamento de códigos e inspección, o el departamento de mantenimiento de propiedad e inspección en cuanto a este lote?
No, señor.
No, sir.
Okay. Emily,
Yes.
is there enough related to that parking lot to trigger an inspection?
Emily,
So-
¿hay suficiente en cuanto a ese estacionamiento para poder comenzar una inspección?
So, based on the pictures and his testimony, this would be more of a civil complaint, that they're encroaching on his property and he would have to take them to court.
Basado en las fotos y la declaración, en la querella, esto sería más algo como una demanda civil que él pudiera presentar, indicando que ellos están entrando en su propiedad.
Okay, thank you. All right, does any other board member have any questions of this applicant?
¿Algún otro miembro del comité tiene alguna pregunta para este solicitante?
Any questions?
¿Alguna pregunta?
No.
Okay. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Just a question of this applicant.
¿Alguien en la audiencia tiene alguna pregunta? Solamente preguntas para este solicitante.
Okay, apparently nobody does.
Que también, aparentemente nadie tiene preguntas.
Ask the applicant if he has anything else he would like to tell us.
Al aplicante, ¿usted tiene algo más que nos quisiera mencionar?
No, eso es todo y que tomen en consideración porque yo tengo temor de que los vehículos o alguien pueda pasar a mi propiedad y no hagan daño a mí, a mi familia y mis animales.
No, that's said, and I just keep that into consideration because I have concern about the vehicles getting over into my property and harming myself, my family, or my animal.
Okay. I would just recommend that he might want to consult his attorney as per what the zoning officer just mentioned. And I think that may be a way to straighten part of this out. All right.
Son solamente que pues, trate de consultar asesorarse con su abogado, como mencionó la oficial de zonificación, y eso podría ser una forma de atender este asunto.
But, and then,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if there might be people that want to testify for or against this application.
Right. I was going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
All right. Is there anybody who wants to speak for the granting of this application?
¿Alguien que quisiera hablar para que se apruebe esta solicitud?
Anybody wish to testify against?
¿Alguien quisiera declarar en contra?
All right. Seeing none, we'll close this appeal. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. The decision will be mailed to you. And we thank you. And the pictures were very helpful. Thank you.
Entonces, no
you.
viendo ninguna declaración en contra, vamos a cerrar aquí esta audiencia. Las fotos ayudaron mucho y vamos a emitir una decisión para la reunión del mes que viene.
Ok, muchas gracias y que Dios lo bendiga. Muchas gracias.
Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
Okay, the next appeal is 24009, 1014 North 13th Street. Jaswinder Singh is seeking a special exception for increasing the impacts of the non-conforming convenience store by proposing to change the existing days and hours of operation from Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., and close Sundays to a Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. The subject property is located in the R3 residential zoning district, and the owner of record is Harnu Properties LLC. Would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
Emily, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, is notice for this appeal been given?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Price.
Thanks. I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the zoning ordinance, or is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended. And I think Mr. Worley is on this application, so he should enter his appearance.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes, I would like to enter my appearance as the representative and attorney for Harnor Properties. And tonight I have with me Jaswinder Singh.
You want to have him sworn in? If you're going to have him testify at some point, we can do that now.
I was gonna make an offer of proof, and I think if we need his testimony, we could probably wait to do that at that time.
That's perfectly acceptable. Thank you. Go ahead, proceed.
All right. All right, thank you very much. So again, I would like to make an offer of proof regarding this property. So the subject property, as was discussed before, is at 1014 North 13th Street. It's a non-conforming use in an R3 area. And Mr. Jaswinder Singh purchased a property recently and has been converting it from a gas station slash service station into a gas station slash convenience store. And he expects to sell the typical goods and commodities and sundries that you would expect in a convenience store, and maybe in the future offer takeout food service if the site is suitable for that, and if the clientele are suitable for that. So he's spent, a considerable amount of money already converting the store. I think over $400,000 was spent to create a new, clean store for the community. And there are no other major changes going on in the property. All these renovations are primarily focused inside the store. The request that we're making, again, is to change the hours from Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., close Sundays to a request of 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., Monday through Sunday, or 7 days a week. We don't believe that there are any major impacts that this change will have upon the community. We believe that it's in compliance with Section 600-1201 of the City Code.
Mr. Worley, could you just slow down? I'm getting old, not like you. So I just need to get those times down. 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's Monday through Friday?
And that would be the 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. are the current hours of the store, Mr. Price.
Okay, and what do you want to change it to?
5 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week.
Okay, Monday through Sunday. Okay, all right. So it's going from a 5 to a 7 and just expanding the hours. Okay, I get it.
Very good. Okay. So at this point, I would ask if there are any questions regarding this application.
Okay. Does any member of the board have any questions? I don't have any, but you guys might.
He's been operating it at all, or what was it? It was just the
Yeah.
service station before?
Yeah, it had been the old Stompers gas station service station, and
Across from Reading High?
very close to it. Yes, Steve.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right, thank you.
Right down the road. So at this point, he has been strictly renovating the store since his purchase. He has not operated the store since his purchase at that time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions of this applicant? All right. Sí.
¿Hay alguien en la audiencia que tiene alguna pregunta en cuanto a este aplicante? No hay.
Does anybody in the audience want to testify for granting this appeal?
¿Alguien en la audiencia quiere testificar a favor de aprobar esta apelación?
Anybody wish to vote, to appear against this application?
¿Alguien quiere declarar en contra de solicitar, de aprobar esta aplicación? Sí.
Okay, see.
I have a question.
Pardon?
Yes, I would like to say something.
You need to
Okay.
identify yourself and your address, please, sir.
Huh?
You need to state your name and your address, please.
Munindo Reshivalia, 317 Locust Street.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna need you to spell that, please, sir.
Moninder.
And how close is Locust Street to this property?
About, let's say, like a mile.
All right, well, in order to have standing to participate in a zoning hearing, you really have to have an interest that's different than the general public. So you live across the street, you live next door, you live in close proximity. A mile is pretty far away. Why do you believe that you should be able to testify here?
Well, I drive by that road every day, and There's already two other gas stations
All
there.
right, stop. Before you testify, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
somebody who lives a mile away from a proposed convenience store or fast food store, I would say under the law of Pennsylvania, does not have standing to testify.
Right, and I would agree. I don't like to have people not have their say, but generally, it's been people, within about 200 feet or 200 yards
Yep.
tends to be the room in which we do, which we allow that. So I'm going to say, no, we're not going to allow his testimony. I think if he lived 2 or 3 blocks away, that might be one thing, but no, I support that. So I apologize, sir, but that's what we have done and what we're going to continue to do. Okay, anybody else? If not,
¿Alguien más?
that's going to close this appeal. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. The decision will be mailed to you. Thank you for your interest. Okay.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Farley, for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. The next matter before us is Appeal 2404-0010, 1128 Robinson Street. Lourdes Gonzalez Nieves is seeking a special exception for reduction of off-street parking requirements, or in the alternative, a variance for off-street parking requirements. The subject property is located in the R3 zoning district, and the owner of record is Three Girls and Company, LLC. Would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
And this will need an interpreter also, I think, Bill.
Mr. Fegley will do an offer of proof, and then if we need an interpreter, then just stay aboard, okay?
Yes, sir.
Emily, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Has notice for this appeal been given?
It has.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Price.
Thank you. I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the zoning application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended.
Okay, thank you. Is he represented by, are they represented by counsel?
Mr. Fegley represents this.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Let him enter his appearance, and then if he has anybody to testify, we'll swear them in. So go ahead, Mr. Fegley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do represent Three Girls and Company, an LLC that is owned by Lourdes Gonzalez, and I'm entering my appearance on behalf of the LLC. I would want to make an offer of proof, and if there is testimony that the board or others in the Zoom call would want to make, then we can swear in a witness.
Okay, thank you. Proceed.
About 15 months ago, I was in front of the board for the same applicant, and with a request to have the use considered as an adaptive reuse and to have certain other relief granted concerning the size of one of the apartments. There are 2 apartments in this location, and also concerning the off-street parking situation. Your board granted all of our requested relief subject to conditions, and the one condition that we have not been able to meet is the condition to provide 2 off-street parking spaces. In the past year since the last decision, almost a year, Mrs. Gonzalez has searched the neighboring blocks trying to find off-street parking. She did find 2 off-street parking and signed leases that we submitted at the time of the application a year ago. However, after the meeting, when the zoning office saw them, the zoning office advised us that these were off-street parking spaces that were already located behind other residential dwellings in the city, and that the other residential dwellings would not be allowed to lease the property space behind their dwelling, because it would then take away from the parking space that's the ordinance requires for their own particular dwelling. So that left us in a position where we needed to find some off-street parking close by, perhaps within 700 feet or so. And there is only one other location, and it is at 1019 Locust Street. And I did send a letter to the owner or purported owner of record, which was returned to me. I have not submitted it as an exhibit, and I do have that to submit as an exhibit later here via scanning it and sending it to you. It would just show the envelope that it was returned to me. Secondly, I mailed a letter to the purported owner of the company that owned the property. I had checked on the state's website to find out who the owner was that had registered that particular company. And I found out that he lived in the city, and I mailed him a letter with a certificate of mailing attached, and I do have that for submission as well. And I did not hear a response from that. The third exhibit, if the board would consider it helpful, would be to show one or two pictures of what the property looks at the side where there had been a reservation from general parking to allow commercial deliveries, because this property had been commercial use for decades. It actually had been a knitting mill back in the early 1900s. Of all things, one of these properties that small, but it had been. However, if the board would like that to show what the parking looks like right there next to the property on Locust Street, I would be happy to submit that. And other than those offers of proofs, everything that I would want to speak about was contained in the application as attachments. So I'll end my offer of proof with that statement.
So we'll, Mr. Fegley, we'll incorporate the decision from 2023, but I think the pictures would be most helpful to the board to see if the parking issue could not be resolved in some way. Because I know there's 2 units. The one unit has 3 bedrooms, and you know, that may be permissible, and then there may be some resolution, if possible, for the second efficiency unit, but we'll have to defer to the zoning office on that. So why don't we show the pictures, if we could put those into evidence, please? And those would be exhibits. How many pictures do you have, Mr. Fegley?
Well, if you will, I'm going to get them up now. Thank you. Bear with me, please.
Sure.
I have 2 pictures now. The pictures of the envelope, I do not have scanned in at this
We
moment.
don't need those. We'll take your statement
Word for
that they
that.
were returned. It's just the pictures of the property that I think are
Very
important.
good. Well, may I share screen from my end then to show those to the board?
Yes, go ahead.
Can the board see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So for the board members and others looking here, this photograph was taken at the rear of the property, and the photograph is looking along Locust Street out to Robinson at the corner. And on the right, you will see a no parking sign that's on a garage. That is the one off-street parking that we do have. And if you look down the curb On the left side, there's a red car and a blue truck. You can see a yellow curb around the utility pole, and then you can see some blue curbing down. That's where the commercial use had been. And I'm going to try to get the other one up now. I'm going to stop the share here on this one, get a new share.
What does a blue curb indicate, Mr. Fegley? Do you know?
It indicates a commercial delivery service.
Okay. And then, Emily, let me ask this question.
Yes.
How many off-street parking spaces would you need for the efficiency and the 3-bedroom?
So the parking requirement doesn't go based off of bedrooms, it just goes based off of total units. And it's 1.5 per unit, so it would need a total of 3 parking spaces.
So they're asking for a variance for 2 off-street parking spaces, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Mr. Fegley, to interrupt, but
Well, that's quite all right. I'm going to stop the share and get another picture up here. One moment. All right, that's the one I wanted. So now I'll come back here to Zoom. Share it. They don't have the one I want. What happened here?
we don't want that.
No, you don't want that. That's another client.
Well, what was the picture going to represent?
Well, I think I'm going to try it one more time if you just allow me. Forgive me. There we go. I don't have my, maybe it's in Brave browser. No, it's not in Brave browser. I can't find it. I don't know why it's not coming up. The picture was going to be, Mr. Price, the picture was going to be a close-up of that blue area. It delineates it much more clearly. That was what I was going to present, so the board could get a feel for the distance that had been zoned off, not zoned off, but sectioned off for deliveries.
I can show the street view if that would help.
Thank you, Emily. That would be great. Would you be kind enough to do that?
Yep, no problem. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so it'll start about right here behind the truck, and then it goes all the way to the corner, to almost the corner, to about where the steps start.
So the green, it's at the corner is where the proposed apartments are, and where the green is where the parking?
So this is the building, this is 1128. This green area would be what used to be reserved for the non-residential use that this used to be. So I guess that knitting mill that Mr. Fegley described.
But that the green building to the rear of the building that you just
This is the garage area. It's all connected. This is all technically on one parcel.
Okay. All right. And then so it's a 3-floor building. The first floor would be 3 units, is that correct?
Now, the first floor
3 bedrooms.
is a studio, and the second floor, I think, is the 3 units. My client is with me here. If you would like her to testify, that we can certainly swear her in.
So, but we're talking about two units, one with 3 bedrooms, one as a 1-bedroom or an efficiency, right?
I believe it's 3 bedrooms. Ms. Gonzalez, is that right? Yes, it's a 3-bedroom.
All right, and then, so from the rear of the stucco building to where that looks like an air conditioner or something is there before the garage door, what's in there? Is that just storage or?
Yes, it's storage, right, it is storage. It was built out that way, well before she owned it. So there are lots of things stored in there.
Okay. has she had any complaints? If we can swear her in and ask her, has she had any complaints from her proposal from neighbors?
Please swear her in, but I know of none.
Ma'am, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you
Señora,
swear to
¿puede
tell the truth?
levantar su mano derecha, por favor?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Usted
I
jura
do.
si-
Thank you.
Okay. You don't need the interpreter, I guess.
No.
Okay, can the,
Ma'am, have you had any complaints from your neighbors?
I have not.
And how long have you owned the building?
Since June 2022. May
So-
2022.
So you're familiar with your neighbors, they understand who you are and what you're proposing?
Correct.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
But before the board continues, may I add one more thing? I just wanted to add something into what Attorney Price had said during the course of his questioning. We did request a special exception, and I was thinking that there might be a latitude within the city's zoning code for a special exception. Mr. Price did mention a variance, and we submitted that in the alternative. That's just all I wanted to say.
So your special exception would be for a conversion, correct?
No, you did approve that. The special
Right.
exception would be for relief from the 2 additional spaces for off-street parking and either allow that reserved area to serve in that capacity or completely eliminate the need for 2 off-street parking because it's not going to significantly impact the area. That is what the request is, Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Fegley.
You're welcome.
All right, any member of the board have any question? Mr. Gatone, we can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted, Mr. Gatone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go
Yes.
ahead. You have a question.
All right, I'm sorry. If for some reason I magically get disappeared. Now, I just want to mention something. Because it was referenced a couple times about this green space or whatever. Does that remain in perpetuity with the property? That it was once a business, which she then converted to 2 apartments or whatever. But when that was reserved for drop off, does that remain in perpetuity with that building?
Probably not,
Okay, so that's our decision. Okay.
probably not.
It would
Okay,
also,
thank
it would also probably depend on whether or not those like, there's usually signage whenever there's spaces. Whenever those spaces are reserved from Public Works, they usually put signage. So if there's any signage showing that, now whether or not it's been enforced is a different story. But if they have removed that signage since then, the green paint doesn't really signify anything. So it will all
That's our
determine.
right. That's our decision. We will have to think about that, and that's certainly worth looking at.
The interpreter would like to know if they may be excused since they aren't needed for this appeal.
Mr. Reedy, do we need an interpreter for your application?
We do not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Interpreter, appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Mr. Price, if I could speak to Mr. Gatone's observation, I do think he's absolutely correct about that. When the board reached its decision last year, the board did say that we approved this as an adaptive reuse and that once all the conditions are met, then the property could no longer be used as a commercial use. And with that, I think would also go the delivery area because there could no longer be a delivery service because it's no longer a commercial use. So the request for us is to give us the relief to at least allow us to use that for parking for the limited purposes of satisfying the zoning hearing board.
Thank you. Clearly explained, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fegley.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else have any question? All right, seeing none. Anybody want to testify in favor of granting this application? Does anybody want to testify against granting this application? Okay, seeing none, unless Mr. Fagley has anything he would like to add, or a board member, I'm going to close this hearing. We'll issue a decision at next month's meeting. You need not be here. The decision will be mailed to you, and we thank you for the good information.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Good night, Jim.
Good
Good
night.
night.
All right, the last matter before us tonight is Appeal 24040011, 1900 Hill Road. JPRO Properties LLC and Redeemed Properties LLC, care of Jessica Cintron, is seeking a variance for the approval of a fourth dwelling unit, or in the alternative, special exception for the fourth dwelling unit as non-conforming. The subject property is located in the R1 zoning district. The owners of record are JPRO Properties LLC and Redeemed Properties LLC. Would you swear in our zoning officer, please?
Emily, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Has notice for this appeal been given?
It has.
Okay, Mr. Price.
Thanks. I'll put some exhibits into the record. Exhibit number 1 is the notice. Exhibit number 2 is proof of publication of the notice. Exhibit number 3 is proof of posting of the notice. Exhibit number 4 is the application, including all of its attachments. And exhibit number 5 is the zoning ordinance of the city of Reading as amended. The applicant is represented by Joel Reedy, so he can enter his appearance and do his offer of proof, please.
Okay, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Joel Reedy on behalf of JRPO Properties LLC and Redeemed Properties LLC. And for the record, I have with me attorney Daniel Hong here in my office. He's present also. If called to testify, I have 2 witnesses who are present, Jessica and Louis Centrone, who are members and representatives of the 2 entities I've just named. Subject property is at 1900 Hill Road in Reading, Pennsylvania, 19602, and both would testify consistent with the following. This is zoned R1 residential. My clients purchased this property on February 21st, 2020. It was advertised on Zillow and on MLS as a 4-unit apartment complex, or 4-unit apartments. Is inspected for at least the last 6 years as a 4-unit by Reading City. Several utilities that they switched over had it listed as 4 units and have separate accounts for each of the 4 units. At some point during discussions with the city, it turned out that for some reason in the records, it's reflected as a 3-unit apartment. We've been unable to clarify whether it was a 3 or 4 unit when originally approved, but at this point, we're asking for it to be recognized as 4 units in the alternative for a special exception, or in the alternative for a variance as the board thinks proper. There have been no neighbor problems to date. The neighbors have complimented the fact that they have cleaned up the house. Mostly this has been repainting it, putting in new floors, new counters. If called to testify, I would show quite a lot of photos that I'm happy to provide, perhaps by Dropbox link or otherwise for the board, which show the excellent condition, both externally and internally, of the property. There are other, in the neighborhood, there are appear to be some other apartments as well. They have 5 spaces of parking at the apartments that are off street, plus other street parking. They believe they could add more. We're not asking to do that tonight, but to the degree that the board is concerned about parking, we're happy to discuss what alternatives would be preferred. But we think the 5 spaces are sufficient. As far as the use of the property, there are no toxic fumes. They're not doing anything other than just allowing people to live in affordable, clean, quality housing. There are really no other economically viable uses for the 4th apartment space. And I would also just note, for the board's consideration, one practical problem we have is if they're only approved for 3 apartments, we're not entirely clear which one is the 4th apartment. So it would be difficult for us, unless we were just to pick one at random, to even not use one of these accordingly. At the moment, it is owner occupied. Ms. Jessica Centrone lives in one of the apartments. A family member lives in another one, and I think it's just one of them that's vacant at the moment. My clients, I want to emphasize, they did not expand the existing apartment building. They bought it this way, understanding it to be 4 units. There are entrances to each of them independently, and in all cases, there are 2 entrance exits, including a window, so that they're in compliance with all city fire codes. And again, the inspector's been through and declared each of them safe and habitable.
So, Mr. Rady, let me just ask. So you said in your research, at least 6 to 7 years ago, it was being treated as a 4-unit apartment by the city. Is that correct?
Yes, it was being inspected that way. Yes.
And there was never any problem with it at that point.
Yes, and I want to be 100% clear. We've only owned it since 2020. So obviously we might only know about problems since that point, but we know it was inspected before that. And my clients have had no other issues other than just the fact that it's reflected as 3-unit.
Do you have any idea when, like, is each apartment separately metered for electric?
I know that, yes, it is. I know it is for, I think, Xfinity, I believe electric. Miss Cintron actually works for UJI. I would have to defer to her on the gas, but I believe they're all separate for all utilities.
Good.
I'm getting nods.
Can I ask you to do me a favor?
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot easier for the board to decide this. If you could get some records, like we'll leave the testimony open tonight. If you could get some records on when those meters were put in, you know, if they were put in 1967, it's a little bit different if they were put in 2021. If we can get meters for gas or electric, etc., if you could submit that to Emily, so the board could look at that, I think that would be helpful. You have 5 spaces. Emily, you say for 4 apartments, they would need 6 parking spaces, correct?
Yes, and on site plans that I have, I counted 6.
Okay.
But there is also I would ask that they verify the size of those parking spaces, because I do have some photos that I can share where at least one of the vehicles is sticking out over the sidewalk. And so it's not totally clear if those spaces are each 9 by 18.
Now, Emily, have you been in these apartments?
I have not been inside, no.
Okay. You know what? The other thing, Mr. Reedy, it was helpful for a hearing we had a couple of months ago about whether this was actually an old apartment, had been there for a while. If you could take pictures of the apartments so that they could see, you know, the refrigerators, the stoves, and the bathrooms, that really helps to bolster the case about that this probably was a pre-existing non-conforming use for many years.
I can certainly do that, and I do have quite a few photos of its current condition. I will note, I mean, it's very modern, it's very clean, looks very nice. So I don't know if it's going to prove the age of the apartments, but I will happily submit those by Dropbox or.
So your clients changed the interiors of the apartment since they've owned it, is that correct?
They've upgraded or cleaned it up, but a lot of this is cosmetic changes. So I mean, you know, you're going to see new appliances, new flooring.
If they have any, you know, pre-cosmetic change pictures, that'd be helpful too.
Sure.
Mr. Price, maybe I can shed a little light on this.
Yes, sir.
I lived on Steuben Road, which is right behind where that property is, since 1971. And that was always an apartment of some type during those years. Now, how many units I can't attest to, but I can also tell you that the changes made have really beautified that area. They worked very hard on that project. So for whatever that's worth, I do know that it was an apartment in all those years.
So if Mr. Reedy just can get us some supplemental pictures, send them to Emily at the zoning administration, then the board could be in a position to render a decision in June, correct, sir?
That would be correct.
Okay.
Can I just clarify real quick? I just want to repeat back to you. You're looking for records on gas and electric meters, if possible. And
if you can. If you can't get them, you can't get them, but just do your best, Joe.
I absolutely will. And then you also want to know more about the parking spaces and the size of them. If I can submit just a written report of some sort, will that be sufficient for that part?
Photos,
Yeah.
Yes, diagram, yep. That'd be
Great.
great.
And then finally, you asked for photos pre-reno if possible, and I'll give you the ones also post-reno.
And if
So,
it's not possible, just get us what you can,
okay, understood. I can do all of that.
okay?
Is there anybody in the, on the board that has any questions at this point? Anybody in the audience, any questions? Anybody in the audience want to testify for granting the appeal? Anybody want to testify against granting the appeal? Seeing none in those cases, what we will do is continue this, we'll leave the evidence open and we'll try to render a decision at our June meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So that concludes our hearing for this evening, and we appreciate everybody's help. I guess, Emily, you can let us hang on for a second or two so we can decide about a workshop or whatever we want to do. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
Thank you, everyone.